Good morning. Thank you for joining VirtualPBX-admin training. On your screen, you should be seeing the Dash login page, and this is at dash.virtualpbx.com. If you're on the VirtualPBX website, if you mouse over support, you'll see several options, and on the left side, the second one down should be the Dash login page. Your login is usually your email address, and I just messed that up, so let me restart this. All right, let's try this again here. All right, this is being problematic today. Sorry about this. Hopefully the third time's the charm. All right, so username is going to be your email address. Password will be generated by the system or by your system administrator. So if you just signed up, the system automatically creates it. And then the account name is going to be your company name, typically, or whatever you signed up the company name, the account name to be. You have the option to click Remember Me, so you don't have to keep typing it in. And if you ever forget your information, you've got the Forgot Info link here. And then go ahead and click on Sign In. So if you just signed up, the first thing that's going to come up is the Dash wizard. It basically gives you some overview about some of the overall account information. Once you close out of that, you'll be in the dashboard by default. So on the dashboard page, you've got your left navigation here. These go to the different parts, and we'll be getting to each one of these. Here in the center here, you have your total number of users. So these are all the people on the account who make and receive calls. Again, Dash plans are based off of the users. So basically, the more users you have, the higher your bill is going to be. You have any of your total devices, and then broken down by type. So soft phone, cell phone, VoIP phone, web phone, etc. Then unregistered lets you know how many of your VoIP devices aren't registered with the system. Basically, the system says, hey, we can't tell that these are connected. We can't send calls to these unregistered devices. Over here to the right, you've got your main numbers. So these are the numbers your customers typically dial to get to you. These numbers will have the same routing, and they'll have the same main greeting if you choose to have one. Below that, you've got your fax box number. So basically, this lets you receive inbound faxes. and yet your total numbers on the account. Typically, Dash plans include anywhere from 1 to 3 phone numbers as part of their plan or as part of your monthly price. Once you go over that, each number is $4.99 per month, unless it's an international number, which can vary depending on where the number is. So in this case, you can see this account has way more than 3, so I'd be paying quite a bit extra for these numbers. So you have assigned numbers and spare numbers here. Assigned numbers means these are numbers you're using. They're going someplace, whether that means going directly to a user, so a DID, they're going directly to a ring group or an AZD queue, or, again, your main numbers or your fax box number. Then we have a spare number. It's just a number on your account, but you're not using. It doesn't go anywhere. Now, you're still being charged for this number if you're over your allotment. Mostly it's for customers who have who bought like a block of numbers in sequence and they're not using all of those numbers yet, or they use it for specific campaigns, and then they're like, oh, that campaign's over for right now, but we'll be revisiting it in a few more months, then we'll activate that number again. And that way you're just not getting extra calls on numbers that you're not planning on getting calls from. All right, then we have to break down here US DID or US local numbers, and then US toll-free. And again, if you have international numbers, there would be another heading here. In terms of adding numbers, we'll cover for the US within the system, but for international phone numbers, you're going to need to email porting at virtualpbx.com, and the porting department will at least need to know the city and country that you want a phone number in. If there are additional requirements, the porting team will let you know what those requirements are. Those requirements don't come from VirtualPBX, those come from the countries themselves. All right, down below here we've got the company user directory, and it says users here says 11, where actually I have a total of 21 users. What this means is, as an admin, when the other users were created, I only selected 11 to show up in the user directory. Now, I can change that at any time as an admin. It's just one of those options you can choose to do. And then you have an option then to download this company directory. Down below that, we've got our account ID. This is essentially your account number. If you ever have to call into VirtualPBX, like our support team, for example, or our billing team, we typically will ask you for your company name and look you up that way. But like if you're going to send us an email, for example, you can put that in. That way we'll find this exact account. If anything, it's much more important if you have multiple accounts with us to include the account number. Third option down here is the account realm. This is used for a couple different things. I don't know primarily, but the first thing that comes up is to program a third-party application or VoIP phone. So if you're going to use a software application like XLite from Counterpath, you would use the account realm as part of setting up that application. Likewise, if you're setting up a VoIP phone that isn't supported by our auto provisioning process, you would, again, use that account realm as part of the setup process for that VoIP phone. The other thing that this comes up for is to send faxes out. So on Dash, to send faxes out, currently you create an email. In the to field of that email, you put +1, the area code and phone number that you're faxing to, and then the @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you attach a PDF or TIFF file and send off your email. And then down here at the bottom, this is actually quite fairly new, is a store discount code. So just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount on items in our web store. And usually that's VoIP phones, some network equipment, etc. All right, up here at the top, we got caller ID. So this is your company caller ID, and it's basically the default info for the whole system. So you select any of your main numbers, and then you have the company caller ID name or CNAME. This is restricted to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. To my knowledge, this is an industry standard. Once you click Save Changes, this information would be sent to the other carriers who support CNAME. and then they have to update their servers. This takes about 3 business days. It can sometimes take a little bit longer, but usually it's right around 3 business days. A couple things to keep in mind about CNAME. So first and foremost, not every carrier supports CNAME. So if a call happens to route through a carrier that doesn't support it, the CNAME information won't go through to your destination. And how a call routes can vary from call to call. Just basically depends on call traffic going on at the time. The next thing is for even the carriers who do support CNAME, it's their lowest priority. So if they're having heavier than expected call volume, they will drop the CNAME information just to make sure the call gets through. Right. So basically, first priority for telecom, connect the call. Second priority, caller ID information. And then way at the end, the CNAME information. And then one thing that occasionally comes up is if you're calling someone who has your phone number programmed into their device already, whatever they labeled your phone number will supersede anything we send, right? The device, the local supersedes the information we send. Down below here, we have the company emergency or E911 address. This is the default E911 address for your VoIP devices. So basically, staff member picks up the VoIP phone, calls 911. This is a default address that gets sent to emergency services. So you do want to make sure this is correct. Now, if you do have people who work in different locations, they can have E911 set up by their device, right, the device level. Right. But then, yeah, after making any changes, you just click on Save Changes. And we're all set there. Next, we got hold music. So on Dash, hold music is not while your inbound caller is waiting to connect to someone initially. Right. So basically, it's call comes in, staff member picks up, then they put that person on hold. This is that default hold music. So Dash allows you to upload either a .wav, .wav, or a .mp3 file. Currently, that's limited to 1 megabyte in size. 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes, give or take. The most important thing to remember when you're uploading a media file to Dash is that it's recorded in mono, not in stereo. Basically, think of it this, or if you can remember this, when you call in to listen to it, right, your phone has one speaker. It's a mono oral device. So when you're trying to force a stereo file over your phone, you hear a lot of static typically. You might still be able to hear some of your greeting or your hold music, but typically you just hear a lot of static. In a couple of cases, I've actually had customers just hear nothing. And then when I took a look at the file, it was in stereo, so just split it. Basically, to upload, you click on the little upload button, you browse it on your computer, and then you click on the little blue and white icon to upload. And then we got hours, which is actually part of the main number group of settings. All right, so by default, new accounts are set up as 24-hour open office, meaning, hey, you can take calls. You can change it to custom office hours. For each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark in front of it. And then to the boxes to the right, you put your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Basically, select from the drop-down. And then you also have this option down here at the very bottom. If your whole office or store is closed for lunch, you can put a check mark here and be closed automatically for lunch hours. And if you do that, then you've got the little boxes there to say, hey, these are our lunch hours. So the system automatically will put you in lunch mode. All right, next up we've got office holidays. So you can set your office holidays in advance. First is, are you closed for holidays? If you are, click on the checkbox. And then you have add holiday over here to the right. So single day, that's pretty straightforward. You're closed for a single holiday day. Date range means you're closed for multiple days in a row. And then advanced is basically some special parameters. So single day is this option here, President's Day, right? Put in the date. When February 20th rolls around next, the system will automatically put me in holiday mode. I don't have to do anything special about it. All right, now date range, like we have down here for Christmas, December 22nd through the 26th. Again, 22nd hits, system puts me in holiday mode. 27th comes around, we're back in business and back in open. Now the main caveat here we have for date range is for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. You notice that there's no year indicator here for the holidays, so the system handles a date range covering New Year's Eve to New Year's Day poorly and basically puts you in closed mode all year round. So for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, we said just make those individual days, and then if you're closed, before and after that, you can do date ranges. And then advanced up here, second Monday in March, we're closed. System knows, pays attention to the calendar, says, hey, second Monday in March, puts you in closed mode or holiday mode. And then you would click Save Changes. All right, next up is incoming call handling. So this is how your system is handling calls coming into your main numbers. Right, you've got a couple of tabs here, so open hours, and we have a holiday tab. And then you've got three basic options. So first option, call comes in and goes to the virtual receptionist. And you click on that, it's going to give you a little window here. So on the left is your main menu. This is what people press on their phones to navigate through your system. Right, so 1 for sale, 2 for support, et cetera, or to whatever various ring groups and option you have. You can add a new route by clicking on new route. It gives you a new option. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, this browser that I'm using for streaming doesn't always show the pull downs. But basically, you can have anything 0 through 9. And then in terms of your options, it's basically users, groups, the directory. You can actually go to call queues if you have queues. You can go to a specific device, although I don't typically recommend that. You can also go to a media file, so like a greeting file. And then also you can go to voicemail boxes. The downside of going to a media file is once that media file stops playing, the call is ended. Over here on the right, you've got your greeting options. So text-to-speech, you type in a greeting, you click Update, you click Save, and it's live. You can upload your own file, again, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono. Basically, find a file, and then you would click Update to upload. If you already have recordings, you would have a pull down here to show all the options. You also have a record over the phone. Now the system is assuming you're using a VoIP phone that you've added to the system. You would call the main number. You would enter the PIN number denoted here and record it over the phone. Now, this PIN number is specific to your open hours, right? Because I'm in the open hours virtual receptionist. The holiday one, I'd have to put the system in holiday mode to be able to call in to record the holiday greeting or upload it separately. All right. For professional recording services, we've partnered with another company called Snap Recordings. They have something like 100 voice actors to choose from between male and female. They've got various versions of English. I think they have a couple of versions of Spanish and a couple of versions of French, so you can go multilingual. They also have packages that include hold music options, so you can have a music file play with a script reading in between, that sort of thing. They handle their own pricing and their own delivery, which is typically email, and then you would simply upload the file. And then down here we have settings, basically number of retries on misdial. Basically, how many times are you letting your greeting play, and or how many times are you letting people mess up when they enter a menu option. Now, if you have a default action set on the main menu, then after this, so after one misdial, it would go to whatever the default action is. Usually that's to a voicemail box. I don't currently recommend that just because there's so much robo-dialing going on right now that it's better to not have a default action. So if there's no valid input on your menu options, the call is disconnected. So normally I say, put it at 2 or 3. So in case, someone had screaming in the background of their car or whatever, when they're calling in, they have a chance to hear the greeting a second time or hit the menu option appropriately. And at least for robodial, if they don't have an option, they won't be able to send a tone or press a button. So you don't have to worry about them getting through. And then any changes here, you hit save. And then you also would need to hit save changes out here. So you need to hit save twice when you're dealing with your incoming call handling. All right, second option, call comes in. In this case, I have it going to a user and then goes to the virtual receptionist. You could also have this go to a ring group, call queues technically, etc. But basically the idea here is that you're giving someone a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to, then the caller goes to the virtual receptionist, so then they can hit a menu option or enter an extension number. All right. And then the third option, which is similar to the second one, basically call can go to a user, a ring group, etc. But if no one picks up, then in this case we're sending it to voicemail. And then this also has the option of you can, at the very bottom here, just send it straight to voicemail. So like if your office is going to be closed for a couple weeks, you're like, instead of having them try to go through menu, it's just like, here, just send them to voicemail. And then you click Save Changes. All right, then we got your main fax box number. You can always unassign a number or reassign it here. Unfortunately, on this account, faxing isn't working properly. But when you click on the Edit Fax Box, it'll open up a new window for you. And then there's 2 fields in that box. The first one is an email address, or to enter an email address to say, or to send your incoming faxes to. And the faxes are basically in a PDF format. The second box is for outbound permissions. So if your company has its own email domain, so abcdogwalking.com, you can put the @abcdogwalking.com in that second box, and anyone with that email address, right, so whoever at abcdogwalking.com, they can send a fax out. They don't have to be a user on Dash to send a fax. They just need the correct format. All right, let's go over to numbers. So numbers show all the numbers on your account and what they're doing. All right, so we're on numbers in use. So these are the numbers I'm using and where they're going. Spare numbers, these are numbers I have on the account but I'm not using for whatever reasons. And this is also where you can add numbers in general. So under By, you click on Local, and then you would enter in an area code. Let us try 775. And then you can see the available numbers. You would just click Add on whichever numbers you want. And you can add them all at once by clicking By. And here, we'll just add one. System basically double checks the number is still available. That says it is, so now it's activated, and now it's on my spare number list. All right. Also under By, you've got toll free. Pick your favorite toll free prefix and do a search, and then add whichever number appeals to you. You also have an option here to port a number. So port basically is industry term for moving a phone number from one carrier to another. So, from AT&T to VirtualPBX. Now, you can start a new port request, and it'll walk you through the steps necessary. The simple form of it is we need a letter of agency, an LOA, which is available on the website and downloadable through that port process. It needs to be filled out and signed. The main thing is we need, for the company information about the phone number, it needs to be what your current carrier has on file or on record for that phone number. And for local phone numbers, we also need a recent copy of the bill. And you can submit both of those through this porting process here, or you can just email porting@virtualpbx.com with both those documents, and then we can begin the port process. You'll get emails letting hey, we got the documents, here's what to expect. And then as we get updates from the other carrier, we will let you know. Hopefully that's hey, the report's going to be completed on this date, but if there's any problem with the documentation or the LOA, they'll say, hey, the port's been rejected, and for this reason. So then we relay that to you, and then you'd have to contact your current carrier to either get the information corrected or get the correct information from them. All right, users. Well, this is where you add new users. Click on Add User here at the top. You put in their first and last name and then their email address. Each user has to have a unique email address. It doesn't actually have to be a legit email address. So if people were sharing support@virtualpbx.com, I could put in support1@virtualpbx.com and then support2. Now, downside of doing that is if they ever do forgot password, they're never going to get the email. So they just have to remember it, or an admin would have to come in and change their passwords for them. The main extension number, so on this system I started off with extension 1000. So now the system is saying, hey, the next available extension number is 1019. I can change this to, I don't think this browser is going to let me do it. Oh, there we go. So I can change it to 2019 or, 3522 or whatever numbering system I want to use. And in fact, if you're just signed up, that first user, it'll ask you what your extension number you want it to be. And so you can say, hey, no, I don't want to be 1000. Let's start off with 8221. So here's your option to include in the user directory. The most important one, though, is this one right here, send credentials to this user. So once you're done, once you hit create user, the system automatically emails them, here's your login information. And hopefully then they keep that so they can remember how to log in. Once you have someone created, you can click on their name here. You can always change their name. You can change their credentials, so the email address or their passwords. Their voicemail box PIN. Now, for anyone of your staff members who are making use of a VoIP phone, they can set up their own PIN numbers by calling in the first time. Right? They can hit, there's a feature code. So on the VoIP phone, you hit *97. The system will ask you, usually for your extension number, and then say, oh, you haven't set up a PIN. Let's set up and walk you through setting up your own PIN number. Now, if you have people who only will access via a cell phone, then you as an admin would have to set up a PIN number for them ahead of time. Send emails to an alternate address. So this is in addition to this address up here. You're going to have additional email addresses for voicemail information. Here's your option to include in the user directory or not. Over here on the right, you have an option of having people be users or admins. So admins can do everything that I'm showing you here. Users, basically, they can only go to the user portal, which basically means they can check their voicemail, they can look at their call history, and they can set up their own call forwarding. This is your time zone, and then we've got the language, which is English, Russian, or French. Ringing timeout. So in Dash, we can't control how many times a particular phone is going to ring, right? We can't say, hey, make Bob's phone ring 4 times. We can't do that. What we do control is how much time we try to reach, or how much time we spend trying to contact that particular device. The default is 20 seconds, which is fine for VoIP phones and landlines typically. However, if you have a user who's predominantly using a cell phone, you're going to want to change this to at least 30, if not 45 or 60 seconds. And simply, it takes longer to route a call to a cell phone than it does to a phone that has a fixed location. Extensions. This is your main extension number. You can have people with multiple extension numbers if you want. Phone numbers. Users can have their own direct phone number. You can add from spare numbers, so number you already have, or you can just buy directly from here and assign it to the user. Devices. This is what people use to answer their calls. So add from spare devices means you've already added it to the system, or you're reusing device that's already on there, or you would click on new device. All right, so SIP phone, this is a VoIP device. So SIP is a kind of VoIP phone, right? VoIP is a general class of type of phone, and then there's sub-genres, for lack of a better term, of VoIP phones, and SIP is one of those. And then we have these various manufacturers. You would click on your manufacturer and then see if your VoIP phone model is there. Once you select it at the bottom of the page, you would then put in the device name and then MAC address, which is on the back of the phone. Let's see if it'll let me. Okay. Yeah, looks like I have to close this out again. That's frustrating. Sorry about that. Keep forgetting that limitations that this has. So anyway, after you would hit create device, under the SIP phones, which would be at the bottom here. I'm not going to go through all that again. In terms of on the dash, you're done for setting up that phone. On the phone itself, you would have to go in and adjust. Usually there's an auto provision section, and you would enter in a URL there, which we have the information on our website. Basically, that would then tell the phone, hey, when you boot up, connect to the internet, go to this address. The phone goes there. Our system says, oh, we recognize that MAC address. Here's your configuration information. Phone gets it, reboots, and then you should be ready to go. Right, cell phone and landline are basically the same. You give it a name, and then you put +1 area code and phone number, and then you would click Create Device, and we'll go here down to Duke, and then you have Advanced Options. Now, this is the default setup on a new cell phone. So when Dash sends a call to a cell phone, what happens is, okay, your cell phone will ring. When you pick up, you'll hear an automated voice saying, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. That's the system trying to verify that there is actually someone there, a person, to take the call. Right? So if you don't press 1, you don't take the call. It goes on either to your next device or to your voicemail. Right? If you press 1, call connects. Now, if you don't want that to happen, or you're sending this call actually to, let's say, an automated answering service, what you would want to do is put a check mark here in front of allow use of cell phone's voicemail. So now you won't hear please press 1. Basically, we hear the connect tone, call connected. Now, this means if you're actually sending this to a cell phone and your cell phone voicemail picks up, then that inbound caller is going to your cell phone's voicemail. Some people are fine with that, some people are not. All right. The next option that comes into play is this one here, keep original caller ID. So right now, by default, when a call gets sent to the cell phone, the caller ID information that shows up on that cell phone is that original inbound caller's phone number. If you uncheck this, what would come up instead would be your VirtualPBX phone number, your main number, or if you have a DID, that number. But basically, it's a way to let you know, oh, this is a business call, versus like a random robodialer calling your cell phone. Right? But again, if you make any changes, just click on Save Changes. Soft phone. So soft phone is a software application, typically on a computer or on a smartphone. You'll get this warning message here, basically saying about your E911, and you want to make sure it's correct. And then you give it a device name, and right now this is set up as a third-party device, meaning you're using something like XLite from CounterPath. And you could just simply create device and you'd be good to go in terms of Dash, right? Then you have to program XLite, and you would need all this. Now, if you're going to use the VirtualPBX soft phone, what you would want to do is click down here where it says Use Third-Party Application. You want to click this. And now it says Use VirtualPBX Application. You give it a name and then Create Device. What happens is when you click Create Device is this user is sent an email with, here's your login information for your VirtualPBX soft phone. Go ahead and download it onto your smartphone, for example. If you want to use the desktop versions of our soft phone, which is available on Mac OS and Windows, there is a license fee associated with that at $39.99 is the list price. You can order that directly, actually, through the web store up here, or you can actually contact our billing team as well directly. Typically easier just to go through the web store, though. Web phone, again, you want to add this through on the user page on the specific user, but basically you give it a name and you click Create Device. The web phone lets you use your computer's browser, specifically Chrome and Firefox, to make and receive calls. The login for the web phone is the same login that you use to log into your Dash account. So that's why you need to have it added onto a user specifically, so it knows which user it's associated with. And then the others are basically the same. All right. We'll go over to user features. Okay, caller ID number. This only applies to users who have their own phone number, so their own DID. And basically, if you turn it on, it means they can use their actual own phone number for their caller ID. So when they call out, it's showing up that number. If you don't have caller ID set, for example, so if I turn it off, so whenever I call out, I'm going to have one of my main numbers show up as the caller ID. Call forwarding. As an admin, you can set up call forwarding for your staff members. So this is essentially a VoIP phone feature. Basically, if you know the staff person is going to be away, you can say, well, but they still want to take their calls. You can say, all right, I'm turning call forwarding on. I'm sending calls to a mobile phone, and I put your mobile phone here, and then I click Save Changes. The main thing is that the cell phone that you're forwarding to cannot be a device on the user, right? So I only have a web phone and a soft phone here, so in this case it's fine. Now the other option, which I think is kind of cool, is failover mode. So basically it's saying when the system detects that your VoIP phones aren't registered, if a call comes into your user, it will automatically forward it to my cell phone. At that point, I'm like, oh, there's something wrong with my VoIP devices, but let me answer this call, and then either fix my VoIP phone issue or call my IT people and say, hey, something wrong with my VoIP phones or the internet. All right, hot desking, also a VoIP phone feature. If you enable it, you make a hot desk ID. I usually say just use your extension number. So in this case, that would be that. You can choose to require a PIN or not, but basically, this is for if you're in a shared office environment where you will be at a different desk from day to day, right? You don't know what desk you're sitting at on a given day. Basically, on Monday, you came in, you sat at desk 23, you go to that VoIP phone, you can use the future code, *11, to enable hot desking. It'll ask you for your hot desk ID. You enter that. It then says hot desking is, or you're now logged into this phone, I believe is what it says. So calls to your user then go to the phone that you happen to be sitting at. At the end of your day, you hit *12 to turn off hot desking, and the next person can use that phone. So then on this morning, Tuesday, you go in, you're sitting at desk number 5. You get to the phone, hit *11, enter 1000, because that's my hot desk ID, and now phones will come to me at that desk, or at that phone that I'm sitting at. Obviously, if you have people at fixed desk locations, you don't need to make use of this feature. Every user, when they're created, automatically has voicemail enabled, and they have a voicemail box created for them specifically. Fax box. Users can have their own fax boxes if you want. This would be in addition to your main fax box number. I recommend using a phone number and have it go directly to that phone number. You can select an extension, and it just shows you the available extension numbers. The downside of doing the extension is you have to ask the person who is faxing to you to first call your main number and then hit the extension number that they're faxing to. Then they hit the start fax button on their fax machine. I'm old enough that when I fax from a fax machine, I just go up to the fax machine, enter the number, I hit start fax, and I walk away. Go do something else. Come back later and check to see that the fax went through. And then also for people who tend to use eFax kind of services, they may not have that ability to listen to the main greeting to enter in the fax number or the extension number and then hit start fax, and or they have to learn how to do so on that particular fax service. Follow Me, by default, this is for people who have multiple devices. If you click Enable, and you'll see, okay, right now they're not set to ring, at least under Follow Me. So first you enable, uncheck the Do Not Ring, and then you've got a 120-second ring duration. Now, the easiest thing to do is click Distribute and say, okay, first device for 60 seconds, second device for the next 60 seconds. I can change the order by clicking and dragging, click Redistribute. You can slide these around, and in fact, you can do something like this, so they both ring for the whole time. Music on hold. Users can have their own hold music. You'll click Enable. You can upload a file, again, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono. And then customize call recording. So if you're going to make use of call recording, this is how you set it up on a user basis. Inbound internal, which would be this first line up here, right? That would be a call coming to me from another user on the account, right? My coworker Bob called me. Right? Inbound external, means customer called me outside the system, right? Outbound internal, I decided to call my coworker Bob. And then outbound external means, hey, I'm calling a customer. Need to follow up on something. And that is user features. Next up, we've got groups. So groups are essentially departments, basically a group of people who answer questions or calls about a similar topic. Now, ring groups have fairly simple call routing options versus, say, an ACD queue, which we'll get to shortly. So adding a group, you give it a name, an extension number, and then you would click and drag people over to be in that group. If you click on the name of the group, again, you can always change the group. The dialing repeats with the little arrows to the right. Basically, dialing repeats is how many times can an inbound call go through the group. Right, so if you set it to 1, it basically offers the call once to each person and then ends the call. In this case, I have it 2, so it's going to ring each person twice, and then we'll end the call. Speaking of the people in the group, so these are all the people in the group. I can distribute the ring duration like I did on Follow Me Calling. This is your total ring duration. 120 seconds is the default. You can change the order. Redistribute. You can, again, have, everyone ring the whole time. Now, one thing to keep in mind about calls that come into a ring group. Say, for instance, Duke here is on a call because he just took a call from the ring group, and a second call comes in. He will hear a call waiting beep on his side. The customer won't, but he will, as long as that call is still ringing, basically until either Lala or I pick up the call. Once we do, then he'll stop hearing the ringing beep, the call waiting beep. And you can also you can have stranger setups if you want. The main thing is the main thing to avoid is having something like this where there's a gap in between the people, because then the system handles that poorly and will basically treat it like, oh, that's a dialing attempt, start over, and instead of actually ringing everybody. All right, here's the extension numbers, and you can add more if you need to. Groups can have their own phone number. Basically means, hey, dial this phone number, get directly to this group. Don't have to go through your main menu. Don't have to hit a menu option. And then we've got group features. All right, so first up, we've got call recording. Basically, if you're going to record calls to this group, you enable it. You are responsible for letting your inbound callers know that they're being recorded. Basically, compliant. You have to be compliant with your local laws. It's going to be in format and MP3. You click on Save. Basically, all calls in the group are recorded or they're not recorded at all. Okay, ringback is essentially hold music for your group, i.e., as your caller is waiting for someone in that group to pick up, you can have something play. The main thing to keep in mind is, again, .wave, .mp3, in mono, and it needs to be at least as long as your ringing time in the group. So default is 2 minutes. Next action. If no one's able to pick up, what do you want the system to do? And normally it's send it to a voicemail box. But you can also send it to a particular user. You can send it back to the main menu. Allow call forward. This is for your VoIP phone users. Basically, if you enable this, they can make use of call forwarding to send calls to their cell phone or landline, basically saying, hey, I'm not going to be at my desk VoIP phone, to send it to my whatever device I happen to be at. And then caller ID prepend. This is also, again, a VoIP phone feature. So we can add additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID information that shows up on a VoIP phone. Basically, it gives your staff members a heads up about what the phone call they're about to get is about. Right, so you can put in some additional text and say, hey, it's about this. All right, devices. These are all the devices on the account. Green means, as far as we know, it's connected. Right? Red means it's not connected, not registered. If you ever see a black device, that means it's been disabled on this side here. You can click on the little wrench icon to get to their options if you need to. If you want to add devices, you can do so. The only thing I advise against is adding a VirtualPBX soft phone on this page or the web phone, right? Because those need to be tied specifically to the users. But anything else, you can go ahead and add. Typically, when people add here, it's because like they're setting up a new office. The IT guy's there. I got like 20 phones. He can add them all real quick. And then later on, they can be assigned to the specific user. Once they know, oh, Bob's sitting at this desk and Mary's over here, we can assign it appropriately. Voicemail boxes. So these are all the voicemail boxes on the account. Every user automatically has a voicemail box, and you know that by this column right here. And then you could create your own voicemail boxes, like for your ring groups, for example. Click up here, you give it a name, give it a voicemail box number, and a PIN. And then once you've created it, so you'd want to get it a greeting media, right? So a voicemail greeting. Again, you can upload, which is what we typically recommend. If you can record over the phone as well, since you've given it a PIN number. Recipients. Who's getting the voicemail notifications for this voicemail box? Since it's not already tied to a user, you need to define this, right? The user voicemail boxes automatically go to their user's email. And then options here, basically, once you have a greeting file set up and the recipients, you then would want to check already set up. And then I also recommend delete after notification. Basically, it's when the system emails whoever is getting the voicemail, it deletes the voicemail that's on the system, saying, hey, you already have it on email, you don't need it here. Voicemail boxes are restricted to 100 messages. So that's why I say have to delete after notification, because if you're already getting the email, you don't need to worry about it, your mailbox getting full and then people not being able to leave messages. And you can also set that up for the user's voicemail box as well. So I can do that for cat. All right, feature codes, I've alluded to this a couple times. Assuming it loads, it looks like it's not loading. Basically, I'm not sure why it's not loading, but they're also available on the VirtualPBX webpage under Dash Support. And basically, they start with this star key and then a number combination to do additional features. So, like the star 11 for hot desking, star 97 to check voicemail, those kinds of things. And if you make use of ACD queues, star 20 logs you into an ACD queue, for example. All right. Next up here, we've got call logs. This basically shows you the calls that have come in and out of the system. You can click on an individual call to get some more information. And there's the gear you can click on for technical details. Our engineers are working on advanced call reporting. I don't have an ETA on when that's coming. I just know it's something they're working on, and they're trying to make it right. So it'll be for those of us who can't read the raw call information, which is probably 99.8% of the people in the world. The advanced call reporting will be much more useful. So that will probably be a big announcement from our marketing team once it's available. All right. So right now we're on the dashboard, and I just mentioned queues, so let's go ahead and go to queues. So ACD queues, ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. It's a call center feature. Basically, they are beefed up or ring groups on steroids. Basically, you have more routing options and some flexibility. However, queues are $30 per queue per month. So right here, you're looking at, what is it, I got like 6 queues, so $180 extra per month. All right, clicking up here will add a new queue, and then you'll get to the settings. You can give it a name. You can give it an extension number or phone number. And then you've got, it's not showing me a lot. Okay, so then you have the queue routing strategy. So this one is set to most idle, meaning who's been waiting the longest for a call. All right, so someone's been waiting 5 minutes, someone else has been waiting 12. The person who's been waiting 12 gets the next call that comes in. There's also round robin, essentially random for the most part. Then there is most or least offered, meaning Bob's been offered 5 calls, Mary's been offered 15. Well, Bob gets the next call that gets in, and Bob will keep getting the next call that comes in until he matches Mary. And then there's least calls. So Bob has spoken to 5 people, but Mary's only spoken to 2. Then Mary gets the next call that comes in until she has 5 people she's spoken to, right? Equals up with Bob. All right, hold treatment. That's getting cut off there, but then you can upload your own music file, again, .wav, .mp3 in mono. Queue timeout, basically how much time can people wait on hold, measured in seconds. Kind of wish they had a different option there. Queue call limit, this is how many people can wait on hold. So 0 means there's no limit, but like you can say, oh, I only want 10 people waiting on hold max. You would then put in 10. All right, timeout immediately if empty. Basically means if you have no agents logged in, none of your staff members are logged into the queue, basically you're saying it's what you want it to do. And then that's where these 2 options here. Basically it's when the queue timeout, the seconds, gets hit, or your queue is empty of staff members. You can send it to an escalation queue. This means assuming you have additional queues. So that would be a second queue. So you can send calls to that second queue. Or if you leave this on none, then you can say, I'm going to send it to this voicemail box. All right, over here we have the agent behavior. So agent recovery time in seconds. So after an agent hangs up with an inbound caller, this is how much time they have before they're offered the next call, right? So 30 seconds, they can get a sip of water, finish typing up their notes, whatever. Force away on rejected or missed. Basically, if Bob misses a call, then the system automatically puts him in away mode, meaning it won't offer him another call until he says he's ready. And then agent connect timeout. Basically, how much time does the system try to reach that particular agent before it tries the next person in the queue? All right, blacklists. Basically, this allows you to block phone numbers from reaching your system. So you would click on Edit Blacklists, and then you would either add a new one, or in this case I already have some. You give it a name. Block Anonymous means if there's no caller ID information, you're just blocking the call. Otherwise, you would add numbers. You would +1 area code and phone number. You click Save. Then you go back to Settings, and then you would move it over here into Selected, and then click Update. Once you've done that, those numbers cannot reach your system. They'll get a busy signal. So as an admin, you can get to any fax box on the system. And then you can see their inbound and outbound faxes. You can also see the email to fax logs, which can tell you what's going on with outbound faxes that failed, essentially, or succeeded. You can also get to the voicemail recordings. This goes to the call recording storage, which is hosted by AWS. User portal. This is what your standard users get to see. So they get their voicemail history, call history, their faxes. The contact list is basically all the extensions on the account. Conference, so you have making use of the conference bridge. People can have their own conferences. This is inviting other users on the account to the conference. You can lock the conference. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody. You can end the conference or end the call. Also, if you have participants here, you can mute a particular participant. You can also kick a particular participant if necessary. But the main other thing that most people would use would be under their settings and devices, because then as a user, they can enable call forwarding themselves. They don't have to be an admin to do this, nor do they have to bug an admin to do it. They can do it themselves. They can either do it through their web interface, or they can do it from their web phone itself with a feature code. And then you've got the voicemails, so you can get to any voicemail box on the system. And then webhooks, it lets you make use of APIs to hook Dash into other software. And that is everything. If you have any questions, feel free to make use of the chat. We'll hang around for a minute or two to see if anyone does. Otherwise, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. All right, not seeing any questions. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. So again, I thank you for your time, and have a wonderful day.